we'll just give it a little bit longer for let everybody into the room. Just give it another minute, see if everybody's finished their cuppers. We'll kick off at the 10:45 mark. Just while we're waiting, anybody that's online, all of these videos will be recorded, all these presentations will be recorded, and as I said earlier, available to access for you to watch at a later date. If you have any family or friends that you think may be interested in having a watch of some of these at a later time, get them to register as well, and they will then also get access to the recordings online. Okay, so we've hit the 10:45 mark, so we'll kick off. I'd like to introduce Inspector John Hughes. He's the Blue Mountains Unit Commander of the SES, and they're located at Katoomba. And I will let John have a chat with you about what we can do to prepare for storms and extreme weather. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Beck, and thanks everyone for joining today. So we'll go over a few things with the SES, more about naturally focusing on storms and what's coming for the summer months and how to make sure that you're prepared for storm activity. And then that leads on into winter and so forth, but we'll just generally focus on the summer months. I'll start off a presentation. I'm just going to share a video, and then what we're going to do is also go through the video again towards the end. So this is a video that the SES prepared for preparation of storm, just gives you an idea. Then we'll come back and go into a bit more detail of that video. Let's give it a second. Oh, yeah. So right, we won't go on anymore on the video, so I hope that video came out okay. Now, I'll go on to a bit about what the New South Wales SES is, because a lot of people just aren't really sure what the SES, they hear about them coming out in storms and people wearing orange overalls. So the SES is a governed organisation, governed under the State Emergency Service Act of 1989 in New South Wales. And we actually have 3 combat roles or core responsibilities in that act. So one of the big ones which people see across New South Wales, along particularly the east coast, are floods, which we actually get involved with in the Blue Mountains, because we do have a responsibility under the Nepean Hawkesbury flood plan, as well as we are a community that's impacted by what happens in the Hawkesbury and the Nepean area, especially if there's a major flood. But across the state, we've got that responsibility. Our teams have also gone out to Western area flood operations, which happened about 10 years ago. People might remember places like Hay and Griffith and all those places got flooded out, and those floods actually took about 3 or 4 months to go through those towns. So that's we also provide support there. Storm damage is our main call for the Blue Mountains unit. That's an incident only happened, I think it was like last year. Well, last year it happened down at Blackstone. You can see, which is a common picture that happens across the Blue Mountains about trees coming down on houses. And the other one, which here in the Blue Mountains we don't have to be so much concerned about, but it is our role, is Tazami in New South Wales as a combat agency to prepare the communities. And we do have a lot of communities along the coast which would be impacted by Tazami. A lot of people do ask, does Tazami really affect New South Wales? The last clear evident one was only about 300 or 400 years ago, where they found a lot of evidence in the Wollongong area of the tsunami that actually went up onto the hill. So there's quite a large wave. So, and the risk of the tsunami coming from New Zealand is always there. So, but we take on that role, probably because we already have a flood role. So that's why they combine the 2 efforts together. But up here in the Blue Mountains, we do a lot of other support, and across the state, the SES does a lot of support roles, mostly country areas, including our Hawkesbury area unit. They're responsible for land rescue, including motor vehicle accidents, animal rescues, domestic rescues. They do a lot of horse rescues in the Hawkesbury, that's for sure, I'll tell you that. Vertical rescue, we do vertical support here in the Blue Mountains. In fact, that's one of our members there during Clean Up Australia Day a few years ago. So we actually had to have qualified vertical rescue members to go down there. The New South Wales Police are responsible for vertical rescue up here, and in the Blue Mountains, due to the high risk of those sort of events happening, particularly in land search, we actually have teams that are trained to State Rescue Board requirements, and they can assist as a support unit. I mean, bushfire is the big incident, obviously the big risk of the Blue Mountains, as we know, but we get quite well involved in bushfire support. During the operation, we'll assist the firefighters with logistic support, try and get food to them, resources to them that they need. And then afterwards, we've spent a lot of time working, particularly with Blue Mountain City Council, on the Make Safe program, which is actually removing a lot of burnt and dead trees that still risk properties. So we actually get involved in that side. And land search is another part that particularly the Blue Mountains unit gets involved with. So we get activated for about 15 to 20 land search operations per year. The police do have closer to 200 land search operations, but we just get involved in the quite large operations that they need support in. So that's where just the background firstly, also before we go into about Storm. So the New South Wales SES, it is a state government organisation with units, but we comprise completely of volunteers, about 10,000 statewide. And we have 300 support staff, mainly focused at our state headquarters at Wollongong, but at a local level, we cover the Blue Mountains local government area. So it's easy to see where the SES unit is. It's exactly the same boundary as the Blue Mountain City Council. So, and same with Penrith and same with Hawkesbury. That's how they work. Our unit has about 170 members, all volunteers, based at Katoomba and Falconbridge. So we're all volunteers at the local level, including myself. And we attend on average over the last 10 years, it's been about 800 storm jobs per year. A couple of years we had about 2,500, and a couple of years we had about 400 or 500 jobs only. So, but that's how many storm incidents that's within the Blue Mountains only. So, and as I said, we attended about 15 land search operations per year, depending on how the police want. And we do have those responsibilities with the Hawkesbury Nepean flood plan, which includes looking after the community of Emu Plains in a major flood. There are 9,000 residents that will be impacted by a flood. on the western side of the river, and a major flood that could see them cut off from the east. So we do have a responsibility looking after that community as well. So just to give an idea statewide, so the last storm season, and the storm season generally goes from October to March each year. So the last one in New South Wales, SES statewide, received 37,470 calls for assistance. Of them, there was over 26,000 were actually storm damage jobs that we had to attend to. And there was flood rescues involved. So a lot of people remember that earlier this year we had quite significant floods on the east coast and in Sydney. Warragamba Dam has been just below 100%, and having that risk there, we've had those flood rescues more so up the north and south coast. We get those calls for flood rescue. So just been getting ready for storms. Let's have a look a bit more background. And there's something we remember about what does hit us, like giant hailstorms. People say, what's a giant hailstone? So that actually exists. So a giant hailstone is technically any hailstone that's greater than 5 centimeters across. And the largest hailstone in New South Wales was actually 14 centimeters across in one stone. And only this week, the record was broken by a hailstone that was 16 centimeters in diameter. So that could do some damage. Just locally, we've had the hailstones of that size. So those two hailstones, that was actually a job at Blackstone's that we went to. So, and there are lots of hailstones like that, and I'm sure a lot of residents here have had large hailstorm operations as well. So that's a large hailstone is 2 centimeters to 5 centimeters in size and can do quite significant damage, particularly to solar panels, which we'll go into, and also older type tile roofs. A lot of the concrete roofs, that once they get over 20 years old, they start getting brittle, and that's where we start getting issues with hailstorms like that. Trees are another issue which it's hard to plan for. And so this job here was only a couple of months ago in the mid-mountains. You can see our team is removing a tree, but they're not actually removing a tree, that's just a branch of a tree. The tree is still standing, it's quite healthy. The branch just snapped off, a large branch. The part that they're working on there is actually the small bit which actually pierced into the house and caused some extensive damage to the laundry. So they're removing that, making it safe. They put a cover over the whole roof. On the other side, it actually impacted the solar hot water service too. So that's, but how do you plan for that? You look at trees around your house and you go, it looks fine to me. If you got any doubt, you get into an experienced arborist or a tree surgeon. And the SES is, being a government organisation, we don't actually have any. We can't recommend any particular company. That's not allowed. But there are quite some good experienced arborists and tree surgeons in the Blue Mountains region. They're happy to give advice. And also Blue Mountain City Council tree preservation, they've got a very important role. I've had tree preservation officer involved in a few jobs over the years where they've actually given residents advice about certain trees. And it's even interesting, they came and saw a gum tree and you think that the gum tree was safe, and he actually said, no, it's not. It's actually an introduced gum tree. It was from Western Australia. It was a weed as far as he was concerned, and it was going to cause some troubles, and the resident had it removed. So you can actually get advice from different sources on trees because they're hard to predict. No one would have predicted that tree would fall on that house, but there are things we can do to try and get ready. And the SES has 8 types of steps that we can get ready for storms. One of the important things is maintaining your yard and balcony. So secure any store items that could blow around in a strong winds. So in the picture there, they're moving the house, the garden furniture is really that lightweight plastic that likes to fly around. And when it's flying around, it seems to go not just outside your yard, but can actually go through and cause some damage to windows and other objects like that. And it's a projectile. But the big thing, you can see that the gentleman there is pegging down. A very important role is a trampoline for anyone that has trampolines. There are some good photos on the internet, and you will see them come up probably on the news in the last year of particularly last storm season. There was one which I couldn't find the video, but it showed a trampoline in northern New South Wales going flying, and it flew across about 3 homes before it landed on someone else's roof and caused some extensive damage. So if you have objects like that, you can't just pack peg it down, number of pegs around the footing. I think a lot of modern trampolines, for example, actually have parts where you can actually peg them down. If not, you can rope it down with tank guy ropes or some of that. But secure any of those sort of items around is the main important thing. The cleaning your gutters and downpipes and drains to regularly prevent blockages. So this really rolls in very similar to what the RFS say, get ready for fires, is very similar for SES. Cleaning up the stuff around your yard, particularly your gutters. So with the gutters and a fire, we know that can be a fuel for ember attack in a storm. And what happens when they fill up with water? The issue with the Australian design for buildings is with your gutters, the inside of your gutter is actually lower than the outside of your gutter. So when they fill up with water and the downpipe's blocked, the water actually flows inside into your ceiling space, and then water being water will find the first point of entry where it's going to fall down and into your house. It could be through a light fitting, for example. So try and keep your gutters clean at all times. So it's good for bushfire prevention and it's good for storm prevention. The other one also, not just that, we also have issues, particularly in the upper mountains. If we do have a hailstorm and it's cold conditions, hail then freezes up in the downpipes. It's hard to control that. And then we've been to a few jobs where hail's actually blocked the downpipe and we've got to clear the downpipe because it's just frozen up. So we do get winter hailstones or hailstorms. They're not as common as the summer ones, but when we do get them in winter, that's the problem. They do freeze up, and that's where we get those blockages. But keep the leaves out the best you can, and if you can't, it's best to get some advice. I know there was mentioned about the AIDA program that the RFS run, which is the one-off thing, and that could be part of it, but it's a one-off thing. Just maybe if you're unable to do your own maintenance, it's just to put some pennies aside to try and get someone to come in and do it. A couple of times a year, though, it should be right. It just depends on the amount of foliage you got around your house. And also part of that is trimming branches and trees that could potentially fall on your property. So that's just looking around, see what branches are over your house. And it might look healthy, and it also goes in line with being prepared for bushfires as well, keeping that foliage away from your house. It's the same as storms. Storm comes in, that branch might look good, and it starts flopping around when the winds are blowing 50 to 100 kilometers an hour. They could actually bang into your roof, could break off and cause damage. So just keep our foliage clear from your house is the best prevention for any damage on there. Fix any damage to your roof, including broken or missing tiles. And sometimes that happens when people just are unaware, or they can just see it looks like a crack. But even a crack in the tile can actually cause water leakage into your house. It's quite surprising. And that's one of the biggest jobs we get for is people say they've got a leaking ceiling. Leaking ceilings are really hard for our SES members to attend to, in the sense it's almost impossible to find out what's happening there. Because water, when it leaks into a ceiling and it's just a little minor cracked tile and it's a wet tile and it's night time, we can't actually, it's almost impossible to trace where that water's coming from. If it's quite clear, we can see a cracked tile and it's during a storm, you can call our SES, and what we can do is what our guys do. If you've got spare tiles, some people keep spare tiles, it's great. If you build a house and you've got spare tiles because tiles change design, keep a few spare tiles under the house or in the shed or something like that, because if one breaks, our members can actually go up there and they just replace the tile. But if we can see a cracked tile, they go up and wrap plastic around it until you can get a qualified tradesman to come in and repair the tile properly. So when it's not stormy and if you notice there's a broken tile, get in a qualified tradesman. Don't wait for the storm because that's a bit too late. Also, a very important thing is checking your insurance policies up to date and current. So it was highlighted in bushfires about people being underinsured for the cost of rebuilding homes. And it's not so much even for storms, it's just rebuilding homes. It's a lot of damage claims for storms from insurance companies is for just damage, not replacement of a home. Very rarely does a storm wipe out a home. It's more so the damage that it caused to a roof, which could be several thousands of dollars damage to your roof. Just make sure that's up to date, and it's so you just have to check with your insurance provider on that. do an emergency plan. And part of that emergency plan, it's very similar to doing a fire plan for your house. Tick it off, very similar for a storm plan. So have your plan. The plan is about communicating with your family, communicate with your neighbours, particularly if you've got elderly neighbours, or for the elderly, see if you speak around with your other neighbours about helping each other out during an emergency. So more so for bushfire, yes, but even for a storm. So I'm not sure if anyone's here that remembers the 2011 storms at Blackheath, where certain parts of Blackheath had no power for 7 days and people had to leave. But were they ready to leave? Make up a plan what you would take to leave. You know, do you have a list of your medications that you must take? You know, do you have any clothes ready to go? Your photos, your IDs, things like that. One thing I remember people saying about passports was really important to carry. Not so much because of the identification. It's just really impossible to replace if you lose a passport during a bushfire or a storm. So just have that sort of stuff ready. And even have some food and drinking water in it ready to go. I know it's very hard to predict about storms compared to bushfires. Bushfires, you might get a bit more time because there might have already been a fire started. Storms come up so quickly. Just have knowledge, and your family have knowledge, what would happen if a tree fell through my house and I had to get out, and you know, you're safe, but what would you do? So have a plan, make sure your family and friends know what that plan is. Even have a storm kit ready. So you can have a storm kit. A lot of the kits on the SES website, you can go to the SES website, ses.nsw.gov.au, just Google State Emergency Service, get ready, and it comes up with these things, and it goes through what could be in the kit. So even actually, if I go back to the last slide, actually had a bit of a checklist on down the side about portable radio with spare batteries. A lot of people still actually do portable radios with spare batteries, so it's independent from power. The ABC, which is our official station for emergency warnings. So ABC Sydney has an app. You can actually download it on your mobile phone if you have that, and that's good to have. Have a torch with spare batteries, and even for me in our house here, we have the center of the house is the kitchen, and all my family know that we always keep a torch that's at a certain point, because in the middle of the night, if it's all blacked out and you can hardly see, you know, you can make your way to where the torch is. And also keep another torch near the office at the other part of the house, and just those sort of locations, because it's always when you have that blackout in the middle of the night, you go, oh, I can't see, I can't find my torch. So just always keep a torch charged up at a certain location. First aid kit. So a first aid kit is not about medication. The first aid kit is about injury. So it's about the bandages and all that sort of stuff too. So if you had an injury, had a cut or something like that, how do you stop that injury? So have your first aid kit always stocked up in a place that's always central that you know you can access quite easily. Candles and waterproof matches. Some people like to, a lot of people have candles because they're just not trusting on electricity anyway. Have your important papers, including emergency contact numbers, all ready to go. Have an idea where they are. They might be in a folder. So I keep my insurance documents, for example. They're in a folder, part of the filing cabinet, and I know if we got to go, I know we can just open that part of the filing cabinet and just grab that folder, complete folder out, and it's got all our papers. Plus, with modern technology anyway, most of our stuff is online, but I still like that physical paper contact, and a lot of people do like that physical paper of your insurance policies, important papers, you know, your birth certificates, marriage certificates, that sort of stuff. Yeah, we keep that all in a central folder that's secure, but it's easy for me to and my family know to go and grab that if they have to. So, and there's also about having waterproof bags, particularly in storms. You're going to be running out of the house. It could be raining pretty heavy. So that's what it goes on there. So that's about having an emergency fit. If you haven't scanned your photos on your computer, you know, a lot of people, there's a big impact on us, our bushfires. People say, I miss my photos. You know, it's just great if you know you've got your photos in an album, grab them and get them ready. Listen to your local radio station for other media and weather warnings. So ABC, or if you've still got the AM radio, it's the 702 is what they broadcast on, or it's ABC Sydney on the app. They're online. You can go on your computer. That is our official broadcaster for weather warnings in New South Wales. And they do a good job. As soon as the Bureau put up a weather warning, the ABC announced that they must come in and they put over the weather warning for whatever broadcast area is. So ABC Sydney, you won't necessarily hear, unless they switch over to ABC National, you won't necessarily hear a weather warning for, say, Grafton or Bega, but you will hear it for anywhere in the Blue Mountains. Even though we're in a slightly different weather district, they'll still broadcast weather warnings for our area. So, and also keep up to date with our Facebook page, the New South Wales SES Blue Mountains Facebook page if you're on Facebook, and also the New South Wales SES Facebook. So as soon as the Bureau of Meteorology issue a weather warning to us, we get an alert straight away from them, and we actually rebroadcast verbatim what the Weather Bureau put out to our community. So normally if we get a weather warning, we'll have a rebroadcast on our Facebook page within a few minutes. We have a team of volunteers that just monitor social media to make sure that sort of stuff. It also feeds across to our Twitter account and other accounts that are linked together. So, but just keep an eye on that, have it on your notifications. In the SES, we avoid putting up lots of little rubbishy ones. We'll put out preparation stuff about for storms, but we try and make sure that if an alert comes up, it gets noticed. So also, a lot of people try and watch the weather. So sometimes it could be complex for some people that understand weather that much, but if you go in and just search the BOM, B-O-M, Bureau of Meteorology, .gov.au, and bring up the weather zone. So we are the Central Tablelands forecast area. And actually you can see there was yesterday. So we actually got some teams out right at this moment, actually fixing up some storm jobs that we received yesterday, all in the lower Blue Mountains. We had a couple of jobs in the upper mountains, but all the jobs that we're attending to, one was an entire roof came off a property at Mount Riverview. We've got a team down there making it safe. And we had a couple other where trees have fallen on roofs and that we're making them safe today. And you can see what the forecast that the Bureau actually put out. So that was yesterday morning. I shot that, and that was, they forecast showers, possible afternoon storm. Well, we didn't see the showers. We could do some more showers. But if you read into the detail, they've got their gusty winds in their forecast there. Once you see that for the Central Tablelands and you click on, say, Springwood or Katoomba on there, if you see gusty winds forecast, just go back to those preparation things. Make sure that outdoor furniture is secure. Make sure anything outdoor is actually secure. So just check on that. And keep an eye on it. The photo, they also bring up the radar. You can, when they get those summer storms, so that's a really good summer storm there. That's actually, I said the date of the bomb was the 23rd of December back in 2012. So a typical summer storm. You can see out here between Warragamba Dam and John Island Caves, there's a really deep red there. On the weather radar, that really deep red normally means it could be more than 50 millimeters per hour of rain falling, which is flood rain. So it's a very small concentration, and it would have done some good falling there for Warragamba Dam, that's for sure. But that could be only a few kilometers wide. It could pass within 5 minutes of your location. But in that time, if it's falling at, say, 50 to 100 millimeters of rain, which we've had, it could actually flood through houses and things like that. So that's where we've had in the past. So earlier this year, we actually went through about 50 to 70 tons of sand. So at our Falcon Bridge and our Katoomba locations, we actually keep large sand pits, and members of the community and sandbags. Members of the community can come and get sand. In an emergency, our teams actually take sandbags out to people where they might have that flood impact into their house. Because some properties are, due to design problems, they might have flash flooding coming into their house. So, okay. Watch the traffic also, and this is probably more so in the winter when we're affected by snow, because snow is actually responsibility under the SES as well for any storm damage from the snow affected areas. But particularly in winter, when snow or ice might close the highway, go to livetraffic.com. Simple website, livetraffic.com. That's actually Transport for New South Wales website that looks at all the highways, major roads across New South Wales. And they give you the good updates if there's any road closures as well. The other important thing which seems to wasn't mentioned on the 8 points from the SES was plan for your animals. Always have a plan for your animals. I know this is probably raised in bushfires. It's also just as important during storms. during a storm, keep our animals secure inside, or whatever you have in place for them to be sheltered. I know some people have some very large dogs, and they might have a kennel somewhere in the garage or something like that. Just so when the storm comes along, just make sure they're secured. And looking out for others, really important thing. This is mainly focusing, you see there's a lot of pictures on floods, but there's talk to, if you've got elderly neighbours or in your little community group, just keep an eye on each other, particularly before storms. Help each other out before the storm, and afterwards it's just make sure everyone's okay. It's the best way is looking after each other in the storms. So I'll just quickly on that video, you will have seen there would have been some chainsawing in that video. Only if you do operate a chainsaw in that, make sure you do it to the specifications that the manufacturer of the chainsaw has and the safety. There's a point there about not raising chainsaws above your head. Our SES operators never raise their chainsaw above their head. We have specific pole saws. We do chainsaw training, which is very intense sort of training, what our members do. But if you're going to operate a chainsaw, make sure you do it very safely. They are a dangerous bit of equipment. If you can't chainsaw, well, then you get someone in that can help clean up. And the other parts of the video is just about what we sort of covered. I just noticed we're coming up on to time, so I'll on there. So I think I'll ask Beck if there's any further questions on it. We'll just move on to that one. So.
Okay, so there's been a few questions just about the video.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so within the resources section of this today, I have developed a bit of a guide, I guess, which has got a lot of the resources that we will be using today from the different agencies, which have the contact details and links to be able to access those. So yeah, we can certainly provide those for you. Yeah,
I'll put it up on our SES Facebook page because I don't think it's actually on there. They did the video last year and I think it sort of fell by the wayside. I'll make sure it's back up there because it's a great video to share around. And I'll make sure it's back up there, and I'll check it. It might be on our SES state state web page as well. So it's ses.nsw.gov.au. Go in for, just look at prepare for storms and it should be there. But I'll put the link back on the New South Wales SES Blue Mountains Facebook page. So we don't have a local web page. It's just the one web page at state, but we have our local Facebook page. So.
All right, well, we're running over time. So I'd like to say thank you to John for giving us that very good information. And we will be jumping out of this room into the next room, which is a presentation from Fire and Rescue New South Wales. So thanks very much for your time, John. And yeah, we'll see you in the next room.
Okay, thank you very much.
In this one.